Welcome back, everyone. Pal Ponder on Weather here. We have a series of huge storms that are just going to be shattering records in the week ahead. So let's really delve into the details and break this thing down for you as we've been watching these atmospheric river events pound the coastline of California. And we have plenty more systems going to be trailing behind the one impacting for today. But once we get into the middle of the week, we do have a storm system that's going to be breaking out across the midsection of the country. That spells trouble in form of severe storms as we head into Wednesday night. Into your Thursday, you can actually see a marginal risk is already in place for East Texas back into the Arklatex. That just extends into Tennessee as well as into Mississippi. And then a slight risk for severe storms already for the day on Thursday, back into portions of Alabama and into Georgia. A lot of these same areas that got impacted just last week from severe storms. So if you are new to the channel, like detailed weather breakdowns on North America, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel. And it's also important to hit the like button as well. It definitely helps out more than you know. So let's really go into the details here. And for today, we're definitely concerned about this newest atmospheric river event that's going to be pounding the coastline. It actually started last night. It goes until Tuesday. But for today, look at this. I mean, this is something you haven't seen in many, many years of just a widespread moderate risk for excessive rainfall that includes all the way from Sacramento into San Francisco, into Fresno, even into the Los Angeles area. Could be picking up very heavy rainfall, and it just does not end there. It even goes into the day on Tuesday with yet another moderate risk for excessive rainfall. When's the last time you've seen back-to-back days in Los Angeles for a moderate risk for excessive rainfall? They could literally pick up about 40% of their yearly average just in the next couple of days. That's a lot of rainfall, folks, and that extends all the way down into San Diego now, heading into your Tuesday with the very heavy rain impacting that region. So a lot of heavy rain. Here's some of the impacts for the snow, because the snow is just going to be extreme out here into these mountain regions. Look at these totals just between now and Tuesday. 48 to 60 inches, 5 feet of snow in Donner Pass in the next 2 days. I mean, some of these areas, 60 to 80 inches of snow. I mean, it's intense snowfall rates of 3 to 7 inches per hour at times. And then the rain is going to be prolific as well. These are compounding setups from all the storms that impacted these same areas really since December the 26th. So for the next 2 days, you can add to some of these totals back into the Redding area, 2 to 3 inches, into the Santa Rosa area, 3 to 5 inches, San Francisco, another 2 to 3 inches of rainfall, back into Sacramento, the same deal. You get into the Yosemite area, you're talking 5 to 7.5 inches. So very heavy rain, roadway and urban flash flooding, mudslides, rock slides, extreme impacts in the valley. So definitely be on high alert to this dangerous setup with this atmospheric river event that's going to be unfolding. It just does not end there, because we could have another one on the day on Thursday. So take a look at the newest update from the Sacramento River. Look at the bridge there. These waters are definitely creeping upwards. So you got all this rain going to be impacting those areas. And we're going to be talking about huge concerns with a lot of trees coming down on those power lines and widespread power outages in the week ahead. So it's going to be a long week for sure for much of California, but for the rest of the country, gosh, it's been warm. I mean, look at the observed temperatures for the first week of January. These date back to all-time records, folks. I mean, some of these areas are #1 warmest start to the new year. So it's been plenty warm, and look at all the way across the board, all the way up into Montreal, second warmest on record for the first week of January. So it's definitely been warm, and it continues to be warm. We're talking on Tuesday, we could be looking at record high temperatures for a good part of Texas. And that's why we're even talking about some severe storms heading into the Wednesday, because the atmosphere is going to be prime. It's just not normal to be 80 degrees in January. And it's not just for the deep south. I mean, all these areas up to the north, these are still well above average temperatures heading into your Tuesday timeframe. And even going up into Alaska, folks, these are the temperature anomalies all the way up into Alaska, getting some 15 to 20 degrees above average, even for them. And then we expand the view in the North American view. How often do you see this for January 10th? Almost the entire United States is above average. Canada and Alaska. I mean, it's plenty warm, guys. I don't need to tell you. I mean, this is not normal for January, and that's why we're even talking about severe storms this week and all the heavier rain that's impacting the Pacific coast. That's a Pacific, front. These aren't like cold air in nature. This is all the warm air that's coming in off the Pacific that's training across this zonal flow into the US, and that's bringing in all the warmer conditions. But like I mentioned, we are going to be seeing subtle signs of changes because one of these is going to break out and push past the Rockies. And it's got a little bit of cold air, certainly not Arctic in nature, but it's got a little bit of a cold air, but it's going to be tapping into that atmosphere, those well above average, 20 to 25 degrees above average. And yes, that's going to spell trouble in the form of severe storms breaking out into the overnight time frame on Wednesday night, heading into Thursday morning. And because of the timing of this system into the overnight hours in the coldest part of the day, this cold core does have some cold core, with it. It is going to be producing a little bit of snow into portions of Kansas, back into Missouri here. But it's all rain on the southern side, and some of those could be on the bumpy side as we get into Wednesday night, heading into the Thursday morning through the Arklatex and extreme far east Texas again, possibly as far south as the Houston area, and then getting into Louisiana especially. These are the same areas that got hit last week, and then as we go into your Thursday, they could be even more intense. So I'm looking at a kind of a squall line that's going to be breaking out on the southern side into Mississippi, into Alabama. That's going to hit Georgia again. You're talking places into Birmingham, places into the Atlanta area. Again, a lot of these same areas that got hit last week with that severe storms are going to be impacted again this week with this renewed setup. So if we look at the big picture on the North American view, this is the water vapor transport index, tells you all the Gulf moisture picking up from the south wind from this system, pulls it in and dumps it across the deep south and pulls it all the way into portions of Kentucky as well. And on the northern side, there is going to be a tad bit of snow. I showed you there's not much Arctic air to speak of, but there is a little bit of there is a cold front that's going to be coming in on the backside. But by Thursday, there's that renewed system that's going to be pounding the west coast again, which yet another renewed threat with more heavy rainfall. And then look on the tail end of the screen there's already another system that's going to be trailing behind that one that's going to be coming in for this weekend. So there's no let up in sight. By Friday, that same system that's impacting portions of the southeast will be elongated along the east coast here. So this shows you some pretty intense rainfall, especially right along the coast here, places in Savannah, places along the coast here in North Carolina, but especially as you head into Jersey, into New York City, into portions of Massachusetts. We're not talking snow, we're talking heavy rain with all the water vapor that's just been pulling in from the Gulf through the Atlantic here and just tapping in and just all those warmer conditions the atmosphere is holding right now. And yeah, you've got some form of heavier rain that's going to be breaking out on your Friday afternoon. So yeah, look at the surface map, really elongating along the coast through Florida, along the East Coast, and really dumping it inland along the I-95 corridor. So by the time this cold front sweeps across, there is, like I mentioned, there is going to be a little bit of a colder air on the backside. So whatever precipitation's left in the atmosphere, primarily going to be through the Appalachians and some of the higher elevations, but you could pick up some 1 to 3 inches of snow into some of these areas along the Appalachian Trail here. But definitely by the time we get into your Saturday and Sunday time frame, There, like I mentioned, there is a little cold front and it dives all the way into the southeast. So it's definitely not Arctic in nature, but still, you could be looking at some freezing temperatures across Illinois, into Indiana, portions of Ohio, but that actually creeps all the way into Kentucky, into Tennessee. But look at the colder temperatures creeping all the way down in the deep south as well. And even in Florida, gets into the action with 30s, widespread 30s showing up on the map. And it doesn't end there. So the further north you go on the backside, it does turn pretty colder up here into the northeast with widespread teens as you wake up on your Sunday morning. But there's really not going to be much snow with it because it's all going to be backside, on the backside. So here's the overall European ensemble guidance right now from the week ahead. So again, all the warm air in place, there's really not much snow to speak of, but technically up here into Maine, I think Maine going to get crushed with this system, and some of the higher elevations of Vermont and New Hampshire, some of the White Mountain regions up here in upstate New York, but very lighter amounts as you extend further south, maybe a dusting or two, maybe an inch if you're lucky. And then the same deal on the GFS ensemble guidance kind of implies the same way. So both ensemble members are printing these snow levels, but the main concern is just going to be some of the heavier rain that's going to be impacting these areas. But here's the bullseye that for this week that we got to be concerned about, because I think we still got another good 7 to 10 days of this atmospheric river event across the West Coast. So here's the blend of the models printing out another 8 inches of rainfall over the next 7 to 10 days. 10 inches in Fort Bragg. You get down to Santa Rosa, another 9 inches. San Francisco, another 6 inches. Sacramento, another 6 inches. This is compounding on what's already fallen in the last 10 days. San Jose, another 5 inches. You get even further south, where Southern California gets into the action. It's pretty severe when you're talking 5.5 inches in Los Angeles, even 3 to 5 inches in San Diego. But you just go a little bit further to the north here. This is a blend of models. Definitely concerning, printing out 15 inches of rain in portions of Southern California in the next 7 to 10 days. So we got relentless systems coming in. The ground is completely saturated. You got all the high winds are going to be impacting these areas, and it's going to be a compounding effect in the days ahead over the next 7 to 10 days with widespread power outages because of all the tree lines, the saturated soils. It does not take much with the higher wind gusts coming in, knock a tree line down, and then dump it into the power lines, and you got no electricity, and then you got more systems trailing behind that. So it's just a dangerous setup across a good part of California. But on the wider spread scale, here's the blend of where the snow is going to fall this week. It's really going to miss the midsection of the country, right? So there's basically 2 systems. There's a West Coast system, basically misses the middle of the United States and picks it back up again once it taps into some of this Gulf moisture. But there's really not much snow to speak of because there's not much Arctic air to speak of. But the main concern is your rain. So like I mentioned, the good part of the central US is dry. There's no snow and there's no rain. It's all along the West Coast, and it's not just a California deal. We still got some higher amounts into the West Coast and to portions of Washington and Oregon. So definitely be concerned if you're up there in that region. But like I mentioned, those systems really don't pass the Intermountain West, especially east of the Rockies. It's bone dry. But once it gets in and taps in some of this Gulf moisture, it picks it back up again, and far extremes East Texas, far extremes Oklahoma, but mainly the Arklatex, mainly the deep south, getting into the Tennessee Valley, portions of Kentucky here. And then once it pulls up and taps into some of this Atlantic moisture, then it pulls it into the East Coast along the I-95 corridor with very heavy rain coming in for this weekend, especially headed into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for that region up there. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook as well. I do update on those platforms as well. And catch the next update where I protect you for and after the storm.